Alors, on m'a mis du son. Parfait, merci beaucoup. Bienvenue à toutes et à tous sur
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Équipe Auto Lyon. I'm Emilie. I'm the coordinator for those conferences, and it's a pleasure for me to welcome you, along with our speakers, to talk about a subject which is comparatively new for Équipe Auto. Indeed, we're going to talk about the market of mopeds and motorcycles, in particular a market which is in fact promising and a market to be discovered, and that's like a sort of an intuition for those driving motorcycles. A connection seems to exist between that sector and the automotive industry, and the automotive sector is reinventing itself, but not just in terms of its products, but also distribution, and the motorcycle sector is also on the move. So we would like to share with you what's happening in the 2 to 3 wheelers market. Products are evolving very quickly and almost catching up with the automotive industry in terms of depollution. The distribution networks as well as the aftermarket has been evolving, in particular the fact that a specific technical checks system, sort of the MOT for motorcycles. So the two worlds somehow are converging. Now, yes, now you can discover on the slide the various speakers. 3 speakers. François Bestel, you are the director, France, for Zero Motorcycle. Zero doesn't mean a motor, doesn't mean that you have no engine at all. It means that zero fuel. Now, and the next speaker is representing JIPA. And next to you, Vincent Tomret. You are the Director General of Yamaha Moto Europe, in particular focusing on France, and also responsible for EXIAMS, that's in fact the Chamber of Motorcycle Importers. So, welcome, and we shall try to separate, or at least, in fact, make the difference between your two responsibilities. Now, we would like to talk first about the distribution, the market. You can see the content of the presentations, and we shall then move to the used motorcycles, which seems to be neglected, and then maintenance, collision repair, as well as MOT for that sector. And you know what the constraints are, and the question basically is whether that particular sector, motorcycle sector, can go through the same type of evolution. With regard to the market, that market in France, we need to display the slides. Now, maybe we shall give the floor first to Odette to talk about the evolution of registration in that market. Thank you, Emmanuel. Well, it's a great pleasure for JIPA to accompany Équipe Auto to shed light on that sector of mobility, the two-wheelers, which is going to be more and more, I would say, which is going to gain ground, and people would have to resort to different mobility choices, and two-wheelers certainly would have a role to play, a significant role to play, and for which, in fact, even driving a motorcycle is still or remains associated to the concept of pleasure. Now, let's talk about the fleet. But first of all, where the sales? more than 3,000 vehicles have been registered, including and 2022 has been a sort of a discontinuation because the market has been growing till 2019, and the market elapsed because the problem is linked to offering, to the supply. And if you compare that to what's happening in the automotive market, there were issues linked to deliveries. And if you look at the evolution, you can see that there are gaps in certain years, and this is driven by the implementation of new rules, like the Euro standards. And the first one, the time it happened in 2008, and that's when, for the first time, the market didn't grow, and then the market even declined till 2015. We shall come back to the reasons why. But if you were to compare this with 2000, if you were to compare, in fact, the current situation, you can see that it has dropped compared to what prevailed 10 years ago. So minus 8% in terms of sales. But since 2009, well, the market seems to be bouncing back. And again, compared to the automotive industry, in 2020, there were minus 20% in terms of the automotive industry. Conversely, because of the health crisis, people have selected new mobility solutions and also new consumption systems and home delivery. All of those, in fact, tend to be associated with the motorcycles. Well, basically, it means that the decline has been less significant in the motorcycle sector as opposed to the automotive sector. Now, question, how is it that we have moved from almost 500,000 to 3,000? Why? So, in fact, Odette represented the total of the market, but if you were to consider category per category, well, the phenomenon is more impacted for the 50cc cylinder capacity. And over the past few years, conversely, larger motorcycles, more than 125 cc, those requiring a driving permit. In fact, we are even doing better than what we were able to do in 2008. So, and maybe unit-wise, maybe there are the figures are not comparatively higher, but in terms of value, it's much more valuable. So Vincent was saying that the market is I would say, a plural market. You have the mopeds, your motorcycles, and you also have to bear in mind the 50cc have lost ground compared to the others. So you can even segment your current segment to have sub-segments. For example, you have the 125cc. Well, you can drive such a vehicle with just the driving permit for a car, and for higher CCs, I think in 2012 there was a sort of revolution, which was that in fact you have to undergo 7 hours of training, specific training, and from that rule the market declined. So 7 hours drive, whereas in fact for the other segments, in fact, it has been growing. Would it be 2020, 2015 or 2022? We have done better than what we did in 2008. Odette? Well, to conclude on that market, in particular on the issue of the sales, what changed structurally is that the decline of the 50cc. Drivers, in fact, are getting older and older. And also, with regard to your activity, what is gaining ground also is the emergence of the electric motors for the 125 cc's, and this we're going to give the floor to Francois later on for that subject, but we are also proud within JIPA to be able to display those figures which we have decided to share with you when we're very much involved in shedding light on the market. So 4 million two-wheelers on the roads, and there are two segments. You have the mopeds as opposed to the motorcycles. So, and the breakdown is 22% as opposed to 78%. And what evolved significantly are the moped sector, which in fact represented 25% of the market. That was and it declined to 22%. So, talking again about the fleet. And it's very important in terms of how the market. You have to consider the age structure. You have the average age, depending on the CC capacity, and you have two types of fleets, very aged and younger, between 0 and 5 years. So in the middle, there is almost a gap. But of course, the fleet is aging, and this is linked to the decline in the sale of some specific category of the two-wheelers, and some of the two-wheeler owners tend to keep their vehicle for a longer period.
The total age, average age, between 7 and 8 years, a bit under 10 years of age. And this is a question of selling a quality product. If they're kept so long, it's because they're quality issues. For the automobile, it's 11 years of age. Is it a question? No, what I'm saying is that probably the motorcycle park is going to not only age, but also be renewed. So I'm going to give the floor to Mr. François Bessel. So, Zero Motorcycles. I'm going to show you a slide to show you what Zero Motors is. This is a company that saw the light in 2006 in California. It could only be in California or China, but it was California. 100% battery motorcycles. This is the adventure range. Okay, the adventure range, right. All right. So I think you have 9 models in all, and range of up to 300 kilometers. So we are focusing on 125 and beyond, 125 cubic centimeters and more. We start at a price of 15,000 euros. That's not all that shocking today, because a 900cc motorcycle at Yamaha is more than 15,000 euros. Yes, yes. So in fact, we have the same ratio as the car. So if we were to compare it to an ICE car or an ICE motorcycle, we're 2 to 2.5, 3 times more expensive in the electric version. So what is your distribution channel? So they're not in kits, they're not IKEA. No, but we have tried everything, bicycle vendors, etc. And our goal is in fact to go to a real motorcycle vendor. We've gained in image, in renown, and we have customers who want to buy our motorcycles in a motorcycle universe. So the customer of the electric motorcycle is the same. We have 2 types of clients. You have those who come from the ICE world, if you like. Sometimes they come from our cars to our motorcycles to be able to travel in town for commuting purposes. And then we have those who have come from an ICE motorcycle to an electric. For the 125, you didn't want to go to the FNAC alongside of the scooters, in fact? Yes. No, we want to have a real relationship with the dealer. So the electric motorcycle at Yamaha, when will it be available? We're working on this. You know that Francois is in a very specific market niche. The volume is not the same. We are the second world manufacturer of motorcycles. And when Yamaha produces a motorcycle, we want it to be for the entire world. Today, a 15,000 euro, 125cc electric motorcycle is not for the entire world. It's not going to be possible for Indonesia, etc. So we can leave these to the specialists. We will come on the market later. Do you like the idea of being compared as the Tesla of the motorcycle? Yes, we appeared in the same year for the same reasons, even if we don't have the same distribution means. Let's talk about the distribution. You know, in the automobile world, we talk of dealers and Odette. What about the forces present? We have a manufacturer network. The difference for motorcycles compared to the automobiles, you don't have agents. It's a manufacturer network. Very often, dealers are multi-brand. You have exclusive and multi-brand. The multi-brand approach has existed for years in the two-wheeler department, whereas for cars it's recent. You have, you know, Peugeot, Piaggio, Kinko. You have all of the mainstream manufacturers between 150 and 200 cc. 200 dealers. We have you had auto centers, and now you have motor centers which want to sell at the boutique level motorcycles, but also workshop repairs. You have two networks which are maintaining themselves and developing, Daffy and Motoax. You have the independent world, and then you have pure players entering the market as well for distribution of two and three-wheelers. What's interesting is that, in fact, all of the automobile repair sector is more and more interested in the two-wheelers. They're selling two-wheel vehicles. They want to repair them as well. Even the tire vendors. So for the moment, Norauto is testing the sale of electric scooters, Speedy for motorcycles and tires. The park is smaller, and I think that the motorcyclist habit and behavior is to remain in the world of motorcycles because of their passion. Yes. This is very much linked to the passion of the motorcycle rider. And also, the motorcycle world is more fragmented than that of the automobile. I think one of the models that is best sold in France is going to achieve some 7,000 units per year. And that model will be replaced in 3 years' time, which means that you have a national park of 20,000 vehicles, which will evolve after 3 years, which is very different from the market for the Peugeot 208 or the Renault Clio. So you see, the park and market are very different in the motorcycle sector. This means you have a world of consumable references is extraordinary. Yeah? It's almost like a supermarket. We have a lot less platform technology in the two-wheel world than in the automobile world. But you have an explosion of part references, etc. So people need to be aware of the rotation of parts, which is very fine-tuned. It's not easy to enter the world of two-wheel vehicles. Next slide. Here we see a convergence between automobile distribution and the distribution of 2 3-wheelers. This is the L'Empereur Group, which is well known in the northern part of France. June 2023, this is Motor Valley, which is 2 hectares, the dream of motorcyclists. Here you can see all the brands, Moto Guzzi, KTM, Honda, Motorrad, Piaggio, Vespa, Gas, Maximus, etc. So you have 1,000 new vehicles and 800 used vehicles as the yearly ambition. You need to know that Jean-Paul L'Empereur is a motorcycle buff, an enthusiast. Every year he goes to the U.S. with his Harley-Davidson. So it's still a world of passion here, which is no longer the case in the automobile sector. So that seems to console him. Here you have Emilie, the #1 auto distribution in France. They have the BMW cars. They have BMW Motorrad. They have 4 dealerships. In fact, they were supposed to be present, but they have a new model in the range that they have to be with the network. He says the attachment to the product is greater, loyalty to the brand is greater, and the demand of the customer is higher in the world of motorcycles. The motorcycle is a world of its own. The CIMA Holding Group in northern France, they acquired Motoland, 7 multi-brand stores. Another example here, the Chopard Group, which bought Moto, Yamaha, and Honda, as well as Moto Axe in Dijon last June. So a lot of movement here in the sector. Here another example, the LG Group, 2 Yamaha dealerships, one in Perpignan, one in Narbonne. And here you see Indian in Perpignan. And here they speak of, Gérard Imbert speaks of the synergy involved here between the automobile and the motorcycle. But he says that you have to be careful because motorcycle distributors are now looking at auto dealerships. Another one, the Le Grand Group, which is going to inaugurate a motorcycle pole at the end of 2023 in Le Mans. So here you see the father and son. So do you have a comment, a beginning of convergence here? Yes, I think you could have given us a whole bunch of other examples. I think that today everyone is aware of the fact that the motorcycle rider is also an automobile driver. You know, the people who have only a motorcycle and no car, there are few of these today. But you very often have a customer who has 2 hats, a motorcycle and a car, 2 different types of passion. You know, behind the word motorcycle rider, you have the rider who's passionate about it, and then you have the rider who is buying a tool for day-to-day commuting, and that doesn't mean he doesn't have passion here, but you need to understand that the world of automobiles with its figures and difficulties is leading to people thinking about consolidating their business. The business is something they're familiar with, the same type of customer, and so the marketing tools, service tools, part management are quite similar between the world of the motorcycle and the automobile. And so I'm not surprised that the major automobile groups are entering the world of motorcycles. The only thing is, when they enter the motorcycle world, they realize that there is no big hub. If someone comes and says, I want 2,000 cars immediately, well, to sell 2,000 motorcycles on the French territory, he'd have to buy some 200 sites. So you don't have the concentration in the motorcycle sector that we have in the automobile. Will that will the concentration reach the motorcycle sector because of the motorcycle technology, training needed, etc.? Yes, we could think it would occur. Once a group has put a foot in the door with a brand, it might become interested in buying another brand, have the same logic as with the automobile sector. You have no reason to refuse them. You have people who want to have Mr. Motorcycle in their organization to mutualize the costs. So it's quite probable that these large groups are not going to buy one brand dealership, probably several, so as to have a territorial coherence. In the automobile, there's been a major change, and that is the distribution contracts, which are evolving because the manufacturer has to change models because to have inventory, for example, electric cars are very expensive. So in the motorcycle sector, is there going to be a change in the distribution contracts? Not as far as I know. I can't speak for all the brands. It's quite clear that the SIAM would not be able to position itself here. It would be more than a brand could discuss on its own. What we do know, and what we often say, is that motorcycles are 10 years behind the automobile world and its evolution. Now, will the world of motorcycles see the same type of change one day? The same type of dealerships as in the automobile sector, with the specificity we see in the automobile. Here we're talking about the multi-brand dealerships. That is to say, when a customer enters a doorstep, I'm not saying multi-brand investment, that is to say, in a same city you have several sites belonging to the same investor. No, I'm talking a multi-brand in the same showroom. I think what's important is the iVoire brand. This is how the brand has entered France and is doing extremely well. So we're not yet really with the electric power in the large cubic cylinder motorcycles. Now here a slide. I'd like to remind you that in the automobile sector you have 3 used cars sold for every new car sold. I think that we're speaking of some 5,500,000 used cars sold for 2 million new cars. What about motorcycles, Odette? If we look at the gray curve, we see more than 600,000 used motorcycle transactions. In 10 years, there's about an increase of 5–10%, the same as what you would see in the auto sector. In our statistics today, the acquisition mode, whatever the cubic capacity, is to buy used. We know that just with the automobile, it's extremely interesting in terms of after sales, because usually the sale of a used motorcycle is a means of retention of the customer for repairs. With you, Vincent Thomas, in the auto sector, there is a very professionalized used car activity. You have different references like the Argus for the assessment of the value of a used car. There are labels to certify certain used cars. You have brands dealing just in used cars. Why less in the motorcycle sector? Well, I think we have worked less on this point, even if we know that we need to retain the customer as long as possible and develop a link for used vehicles as well. I think that with the automobile, you know there's a high financing penetration, so you have a lot of returns on leasing. You also have the market of motorcycle rentals. You have certain customers, because of the number of kilometers driven each year, they want to be able to use motorcycles for weekends. So you have short-term rental companies for motorcycles, people who are going to rent a motorcycle for a weekend with friends, etc. This is something which is growing each year. So that develops the used motorcycle activity. At BMW, for example, you have an extraordinary aggressiveness, for the leasing, which means we have a big business in the used vehicle. Yeah, we're working on this as well. Yamaha selected occasions. Yamaha selected used motorcycles. I saw you have that. You have a site. I'm going to release Vincent and François. Now I'm going to ask Francis Audefro from Goodyear Dunlop. I'm going to ask Jérôme Dalidé from Moto Blues to join us as well, and Rudolph Pouvreau. So let's talk about a subject of great interest to the Equipoto public. This is maintenance and repairs. Odette, once again, some figures. Well, according to our studies, we asked motorcycle riders how they maintain the vehicle. Do they have a workshop do all the work, maintenance and servicing, or do they do it themselves? Or do they go to a garage? That's in gray. Then there are those who never go into a workshop. That's the green, the do-it-yourself. Whatever the cubic capacity of the motorcycle, the majority will delegate repairs and servicing. And we see, in fact, that the do-it-yourself share is important here. If we add up those who do a little bit of the repairs, those who do it all, there is a certain amount of do-it-yourself. This is a market where the accessibility of parts is important. In this market, if you look at the do-it-yourself and the workshop repair, the buy and fit, you see also the 38% of the do-it-yourself, and this is more than what we have in the automobile market. So you have the buy and fit approach, you go buy the part, and then you take it to a repair shop who's going to install it. And so here you have this type of behavior still. If we look at the workshop market today, a two-wheel owner doesn't even go to a garage once a year. Depending on the mileage driven each year, well, you see what happens with the motorcycle driver. You see that the average cost of the workshop visit, it is an average of 243 euros, which is quite important. And this is going to depend on the cubic capacity of the motorcycle. It's going to be much higher for someone with a 600 cc. So what are the motives for going to the workshop? You need to know that more than 1 out of 2 are going to go for a checkup and 25% for repairs. So here you have the classic entries. 7 out of 10 come for the oil change and annual servicing. Now, if we look at the market share of the different players, we see that we are in a sector where the manufacturer dominates. 57%. The independent motorcycle garage, in fact, is going to be 25%. And you see that the rapid repair chains represent 13%. So if we look at market share, this is correlated to the vehicle age as well. We see no matter what the age segment of the two-wheeler, the manufacturer is in the dominant position. As soon as the motorcycle is more than 5 years old, the manufacturer is no longer predominant here. We see independent garages are going, and rapid fit chains are going to take a greater share of the business. So, in fact, we see that the manufacturer network preserves a market share more so than in the automobile sector. So you said that in fact there are few. Now, here we can look at the accessory rapid fit sector. So there's a multitude of small independent workshops. The older the motorcycle, the more they will be used. Yes, you know, in addition to that, they're very linked. It's a very complex issue to account for. So, Francis Audefroy, Goodyear, Dunlop. So what is the specificity of the motorcycle rider for tires? Do they go to the manufacturer or elsewhere? Well, it's quite varied. 30% go into the manufacturer network, 30% in the rapid fit accessories network, and then you have those who buy on internet, as Odette was saying, or the independent garages. So we're talking of about 1.3 million tires, including scooters. Yes, yes. If we were to divide this, so 1 million for motorcycles, some 320,000 for the scooters. So you've mentioned the channels. How does it work in terms of B2B or B2C? You know, in the automobile sector, we have wholesalers, distribution platforms. We have B2B platforms on internet for the automobile sector. What about for the motorcycle sector?
Well, let's say that in fact there are three ways in getting supplied. You can, for example, turn to physical garages. They can directly deal with us. That is, in fact, we sign an annual contract with a number of requirements in terms of quality, in terms of training, so they can work directly with the point of sale. Or we can go through the internet with BTC pure players. So the store will buy the tires for the customer, or the customer can come with the tires. So, but this happens quite rarely. The point of sale has no direct control, contract with the manufacturer. Therefore, they would turn to a wholesaler. You have those who are specialized in motorcycles, CFAM, CGM, and many others, or specialists in tires, Mazda District Cash. Yes, District Cash, which is also well known in the automotive sector. Yes, you have Allopono Pneu, who sell automotive tires and then the actual fitting has to be done with partners. Yes, it also happens with the motorcycles. They propose referenced or approved networks so that you can deliver the tire directly to the repairer, sort of reference repairer. And the dealers are more reluctant to go into this type of contract. So you have to bear in mind that there are 5 major players or brands, or very few second brands, whereas in the automotive sector, there are more than 100 more, what I would say, confidential brands. So the concentration of manufacturers is such that in distribution also it tends to be concentrated. So you are among the very few, or if not the one, to have a factory in Montluçon. Yes, it was established in 1920, and the tires, not just for motorcycles, and I would say we manufacture 70% of the tires. I mean, 70% of the tires we sell in France are produced in that factory. You also have a major factory in Buffalo in the US. Well, it's a matter of industrial strategy. Well, I would say that the volumes are not quite high. We have a factory in US and Europe and in Japan. The one in the US manufacture tires for Harley-Davidson, so providing 90% of what is in fact fitted as OEM. So it's thanks to you that, in fact, the Harley-Davidson can be on the road or remain on the road. Yes, I was just joking, but now, anyway, Jérôme Dalidé, we're going to talk about internet. Motor Blues, Blues with Z, is Blues. It's not necessarily well known, but is growing faster, and particularly with regard to accessories, motor riders equipment. You are telling us that you can sell plenty of products to motor riders, I mean motorcycle riders, through the internet. Yes, indeed. While we are maybe discreet, as you said, but we also have a store 2,000 square meters. We have also an agreement to distribute, I mean, to sell tires. What is specific about us is that all of our businesses are integrated. That is, from purchasing to logistics, web development. So we generate 70 million euros, 14% from abroad. So therefore, we are impacting plenty of customers, and we need to be able to make available on the same site whatever is needed by a motorcycle rider. So it's downstream. It has to be very precise, including logistics with a lot of requirements. Parts and accessories represent a sector that can be that can remain in-house. So therefore, for the sale through the internet, it's much more tricky. Now, and you're saying that it's different from what's happening in the automotive sector. The accessories to personalize, to customize your bike, that's different as compared to what people do with the vehicles. Does it represent 20% of your turnover? Well, 25%, 25%. Is it growing? No, not enough, I would say. We can multiply our figures currently by 3. Well, it's a market that is growing fast, where, in fact, you can sell all over the year, so not seasonally impacted. And you remember what are displayed, 28% do-it-yourself. Well, but then you have a semi-do-it-yourself, so you turn to a friend who is knowledgeable in fitting parts. But what is important to bear in mind is it is a matter of specificity. We talk about specific accessories, and for a particular type of motorcycle. So it's important to have on the internet, I mean, a sort of registration of the motorbikes and the associated parts. Well, PATU Holding, proposes a very precise catalogue with parts for the automotive industry, but also for the professionals. Is that it's also the case, .fr or .pro. So Motor Blues, Motor Blues, after you have generated a lot of money with spare parts, are you going to also come up with an offer for professionals? Well, we already have plenty of contacts dealing with these issues. So one of the issues is how to share the value amongst us. And we, as a company, on an almost daily basis, we do monitor the customer satisfaction level. So partnership would be valuable only if we can, connect with people who already have achieved a significant level of customer satisfaction. So final customer satisfaction needs to be measured, monitored, and so on. Currently, we are very much focused B2C, but what you are saying is something that we can also develop, but we're not going to open large stores. Some other companies is doing that job quite well, but developing partnership, well, I think we know how to buy, we know how to sell, we know how to promote the value of the product, and that's a value, I would say, for potential partners. What is specific about this as compared to the automotive market is that there are two markets, maintenance and repair, and then, on the other hand, accessories and equipment, which is quite significant compared to what prevails in the automotive market. Well, we said that there are specificities to the motorcycle market. When you turn to a crossman, it's not the same as somebody who is, in fact, driving on the road. So there are a lot of specificities, and with regard to crossman, if you like, so it is an area where, in fact, a lot of money can be generated. We can move to repair, or rather collision repair, and we then shall conclude with technical control. That is the MO2 in the motorcycle sector. So what about the collision repair figures? This era, we have, in fact, always developed figures, generated figures on the motorcycle, but we kept it for ourselves and our partners. But we have decided to share it today with Equipoto. So what I'm showing you, don't take pictures, keep it for yourself. So now, those are the figures you can see on the screen. We are talking here about accidents. When I talk about vandalism or damage due to natural events, so you can see the distribution. The motorcycles, scooters, they represent 70% of expertise, and then you have the cost related, expressed in euros, VAT not included, and my colleague said that, in fact, the average figure or cost is 243 euros. For us, it's more than 1,900 euros in terms of repair cost, and this may basically based on the parts themselves. And if you were to compare to the automotive industry, in fact, parts represent 51% of the cost, and the rest is covered by labor and paint. So you are very much connected with the insurance companies in case of claims. So is it only a matter of spare parts, or what about the labor cost? Well, in fact, dismantling or removing the engine takes some time, and then the gap in terms of body work, of course. In fact, most body work or body part will be replaced as compared to what can be done. In the car industry, it's different. So what about the age brackets? Well, more or less similar to what Odette presented. What is interesting is that almost half of the vehicles, in fact, are around 4 years of age, and we are more or less, we have more or less the same segmentation in terms of age brackets. And then we have an indicator which is specific to our market, as compared again to the automotive industry. The percentage of vehicles considered to be non-repairable. So between 8 to 10% for automotive sector, whereas for our sector, out of 100 vehicles that have been as the subject of vehicles that have been impacted by an accident, in fact, the percentage of those that cannot be repaired is higher. And what is also exceptional is that the values or the figures have increased significantly in terms of the vehicle values, and therefore this means the fact that they have introduced the different electronic devices and therefore increasing the cost. Now, to go faster, we have decided to go even further. We have considered, the cost per brand and per fragment. And we have focused on the more than 125 cc. You can see 31% of those that are subject to an accident are roadsters. To the right-hand side, you can see the average cost. This is what we analyzed within our scope. You can see which is on the top. Yes, we did the same for the automotive industry. That is, in fact, the cost per brand, so that insurance companies can really see what is of value. They would calculate the insurance premium based on that. And we're also trying to develop a sort of collaborative approach. And knowing the cost, that has an impact on the customer. If you know that the vehicle repair cost is going to be high, then the insurance premium is likely to be adjusted accordingly. So you can see the cost per brand, per model, and since Vincent is here, I would like to congratulate him because Yamaha is performing well, and they do deliver a lot of expertise. And Yamaha is performing well in terms of cost control compared to others, of course. It's difficult to compare with others, and it's not only because of the tires for the Harley Davidson. You have to compare things that can be compared, in fact. So for all those people who want to have more expertise, go to SRA website and you can download this document, FSRA- and then .fr. So you have been doing that for years, and we're not just discovering it. Yes, in fact, we have decided to communicate more, to share more, in particular with the concept of open data. We need also to have a collaborative approach with the manufacturers. You are also known in terms of ranking the anti-theft systems, and yes, we are involved in prevention. The very first prevention for riders is that if you have insured your vehicle against theft, well, in fact, much will depend on the type of anti-theft system you have selected. So we have a ranking, and yes, there are two of us trying to test those. Joking, of course, we do test the resistance of those anti-theft systems. And we are also involved in auditing in the manufacturing sites. We send people, auditors, on the spot to take samples from the production line. So some incumbent players, in fact, in certain cases do have problems in terms of the reliability of the product. So, well, that's the reason why we actually check on the spot. And the protocol, there are a number of protocols which we are using. And then another subject, which might sound comparatively limited, that is in fact the interest of having an airbag. Well, having an airbag, that's extremely useful, but it can be expensive. Yes, but we had a protocol for the motorbikes, and we have decided to review the protocol. But the idea was to define the areas, compulsory zones or not, non-compulsory. So depending, of course, on the way you use your motorbike, so the airbag has to be used, and it has to really protect the user. Manufacturers who are part of our ranking, will have on their product this label, and the interest of that label is that in fact, the airbag is highly technical, it can be expensive, and sellers are not necessarily well informed, so with the QR code they can access product-related data. So thank you, Rodolphe and Francis and Jerome, and we're now going to talk about technical MO2, Fabrice Lafont from BCA Expertise, Vincent Camouret, and François Bestel can also join us, Zero Motorcycle, who needs to be represented. So MO2 for the 2 or 3 wheelers, engine powered. This has been enacted, so to speak, and we have an idea of what all of that boils down to. Well, in fact, the Conseil d'État has decided to impose on the French state to put in place an MOT for the motorcycle. So it started with a European directive which has to be implemented in France. So this is a system that had to be implemented, in fact, back in 2012. Then it was cancelled off because, in fact, the equipment manufacturers weren't that happy with that move. Now it's now a reality after 12 years of waiting time. Yes, normally a decree should be published next month, and since we're talking about the Conseil d'État, I think that by spring next year it should be a reality, it should come into force. Well, what could, I say could because it has not yet been implemented. So the first control should take place after 5 years, and then every 3 years. Why that different with the automotive sector? Well, I don't really know. But I think that all of that was calculated based on the average mileage, based on the data provided by audit, so around 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers. So the idea is to, Federation of Motorbike Riders, wanted the checks to be carried out, not before the 10,000 kilometers. So, in fact, there could be, there is a possibility of using the motorbike for 4 years without any technical checks. But in that period, we know that there are things that youngsters would tend to introduce. The transmission systems and things like that tend to be changed. Yes, that would also apply to second-hand motorbikes. Yes, in fact, it's a way for buyers to feel, I would say, more secure. So you would have, the vehicle would have, in fact, to be checked. And you think that that's going to be useful for transactions, for the selling. Why? In any case, it's not a bad idea as such. when you hear motorbike riders, they are not, there's sort of an outcry against this new measure. Well, in fact, they argue that the technical check system that was put in place to ensure the safety for the motorbike riders, and with the idea that the source of the problem is linked to a technical defect. And statistics show the contrary anyway. Now, but the checks are just visual. And it's difficult to say that with just visual checks, you're going to improve safety. Having said this, there are plenty of other things that need to be corrected, like noise emission. If this could reduce or induce maybe 5% or 15% to fit in exhaust pipes or exhaust systems that would reduce noise pollution, this in itself is would be good. Well, fine, but of course they can fit the proper systems for the MOT and then fit another pipe or the systems afterwards. Well, moving to ENSR, which is in charge of road safety, can you have analyzed the state of the fleet? You have analyzed 50,000 reports. So all types of vehicles included. What is the result of your study? Well, the survey, or rather the study, has shown that the fleet, I'm not talking about the entire rolling, vehicles on the road, but those that have been the subject of our expertise. But the study still remains representative, and that's the status of the two-wheelers before the accident. 4% in fact were dangerous, and if we also include the mopeds, then the figures go up to 8%. So if we can focus on just the 125 cc and more, this means just 2% of the vehicles being dangerous even before the accident has taken place. Now, in spite of that, you can see here that 22% of the accidents are linked to damages that happened before. So this basically means that maybe there are things that have not been done properly during, the repairs. Much depends on the type of customers. You have to make a difference between those who own a motorbike for leisure. They would tend to properly maintain their vehicle, whereas the commuter using it every day, so they are not going to to change a given part just because of a scratch. So it's not just the mopeds. Maintenance quite tend to be limited. The tires might be worn out, and we tend to think differently. If you're a motor rider, you would, I think, tend to focus on the status of your tires. Well, in fact, youngsters would tend to change the equipment, to remove, the lights and so on. So you have mentioned a number of failures, like leakage. The fork also can be damaged. So those in the field know that, in fact, there are issues linked to the steering column for motorbikes. No, you haven't. You heard about that? technical control or the MO2 needs to be implemented, but it's going to be just visual. So it's as if you are going to war without your gun. Well, I have been, in fact, a motorbike rider before I got involved in technical checks. Just bear in mind that the network of MO2 centers, MOT centers, is limited to 6,500, and we are mainly independent operators. We tend to focus on our neighborhoods, and we also tend to be you as MO2 for, automotive sector, you're also involved in checking, performing the technical checks of the motorbikes. Yes, but comparatively, in terms of numbers, is limited. So do you think that you are legitimate, in fact, to perform such checks? Well, I think this does take into account the network. And what do you need to work properly? Well, first of all, proper training, adequate training. We are from the automotive sector, and we need to be trained to the specificities of the motorbikes, including the different categories. So proper training is needed. And then, talking about the technical checks, so as you said before, those checks are performed without dismantling the vehicle. So normally, the equipment we use for light vehicles should be suitable for the motorbikes. And then we are not sure about the sound system or measuring system that are used for the VLs. It's difficult to really assess, the status of the given engine based on the sound. So we need to have measurement systems, to check the brakes, if we do get, the figures, coming from the measures, we can talk easily to the customer. But with regard to noise emission, it's a matter of judgment, and it's much more difficult to really convince the customer.
C'est un sujet qui est très important.
So what's really important, and this could put the controllers in difficulty in terms of how if it's what you feel, if it becomes technical, imagine what will happen in a technical center for controls and inspections, which can be very often in town with motorcycles, which for 3-4 seconds are going to turn at 6,000-7,000 RPM all day. That makes a lot of noise. I don't know how long the people will keep their accreditation. I think that, François, they need to solve the problem. What about you, electric motorcycles? Yes, we're a motorcycle. We have a homologation process, and we are obviously subject to this. In Switzerland, there are already technical inspections. How does it go? Well, it goes very well. Are you better scored than the ICE motorcycles? Well, you know that an electric motorcycle has fewer parts, obviously. And no, it's quite simple to maintain. So electric motorcycles are Legos, is that right? No. Let's conclude with you, Fabrice Lafont, this last slide, to stress this. 12% of the motorcycles that are controlled have modifications, whether it's at the level of the exhaust. Yes, most of the mechanical modifications experts saw during this study was the change of the exhaust with an accessory exhaust pipe, which is lighter, more attractive. But it is homologated. Then sometimes the transmission, there's something that's going to change as far as lighting is concerned. What about the change of lights? Well, at one time there were xenon lights, but things have been democratized. So in fact, you have the original equipment for the lighting. You've understood the question of the technical control inspection remains. There are still things which are not yet known. So we conclude with you, Odette, given that I have to go quickly here because we've overrun our time. So I'm going to come to Odette. Sorry for that expertise. Here's Odette's slide. Is this it? Yes. At the last study, we asked GIPA France to ask its panel of motorcycle riders a question. Are they favorable or not to the technical controls? This representative panel, simply states that it is an objective assessment of the condition of their two-wheeler, and it will help them if they want to sell it or buy one, a used one. They're not a majority, but 43% are favorable to technical checks. The most unfavorable to this subject are those who drive the 50 cc's or the more than 600 cc's. For them, it's a safety issue. They feel they have good maintenance. In the maxi scooters, you have a certain type of motorcycle rider who very often are also auto owners. Now, as far as the legislation is concerned, they're going to start with the oldest park of motorcycles for these technical controls. And, it's clear that the older the motorcycle, the less they are in favor of technical checks, especially for those which have motorcycles which are 10 years and older. So there's going to have to be a real educational approach. For those who use their motorcycle every day, are they favorable to a technical control? This is slightly higher, 43%. So a lot of education is going to have to be done on this. 1 second with Fabrice Lafont. I'm going to give you the floor to come back to the last of the BCA slides. I'm sorry, we have to go quickly because we're late. You have 3 proposals with the Road Safety Organization. Let's see, can you repeat them? We came to understand through the study that following crashes and collisions, we see 61% of the two-wheel motorcycles are dangerous for driving. So what we wanted to do was to have the same procedure that you have for the VE, which is the damaged vehicle. The control will have to take place after repairs, when the repairs have to have been done by a professional, and we have to see that the parts have been changed. We cannot be against a technical control. This exists in 15 European countries already. So there will be advantages with mileage information. So for any used motorcycle sales, people will have the information. Thirdly, we want to continue to carry out an observatory on an annual basis to look at the accident rate and safety and maintenance of two-wheel vehicles. Yes, thanks to you, we have a better understanding of this park. And I suggest we meet again next year or in 2 years' time at Equipoto Paris. The subject is really, really interesting, and I wish the technical controllers a lot of courage. Yes, most motorcycle riders have a car as well. They're already familiar with the MOTs for cars. So, I think these people are willing to come and have the motorcycle inspected for technical issues. Thank you to the public for your attention. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you for Gilles. We're going to have a conference on body repairs now. Sorry, we exceeded our time. This subject was interesting. So the next conference is going to deal with body work and the maintenance of electric vehicles. Have a great day at Equipoto. Thank you.